Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right. How are we? That's right, Carla. That's the signal to put your phone down.
I should it over here.
How are you going?
Wonderful. How are you, my love?
Oh, not bad. Not bad at all. A little bit sunburned, but other than that, good. What have we been up to? Oh, Clarkey?
I'm good. Super relaxed. Just had a massage, so the world is a lovely place.
Indeed.
And how about yourself, Schmidty?
And I'm on my second last day of work, so I'm feeling pretty good.
No.
Can't wait to ring in the end of this year.
Jesus,
Tomorrow
end
night.
of days.
Oh, good.
So maybe
Perhaps
you'll be
not the
looking
end
at
of days.
The international press, it looks like, at the end of days.
Well, I think that's the problem. I think I'm too impacted by the apocalyptic carry-on of the world. Anyway, have we got anything to report for this week? So I know we only saw each other a couple of days ago. Anything interesting happened?
Yeah, I saw something interesting that I just thought I might share, carrying on the crocodile theme. So apparently, well, not apparently, I saw some footage of a bloke who was fishing and he caught a shark and he was reeling it in, and a 4-metre crocodile came up and ate the shark.
Oh!
Yep, had a few chomps on it and swallowed it whole. So,
Clarky, do you have Google alerts or something? Like, you know, when I actually don't know what you'd call it anymore, but when I used to work in advertising and stuff, you'd have like alerts for like keywords. Do you have croc as a keyword?
Yeah.
So that, you know, any news comes in, it comes straight to you, so you're ready to report on it.
I don't, but
Media
I should.
monitors.
Media monitors, that's it. Media monitors. Oh, I've been out of the game too long, darling, but thank you for saving me there.
Yeah, no, I think it's because I watch the 5 a.m. news, and it's always a real shambles that's put together from anything that is super easy, I think. And there's always a crocodile story if there's one to be told. So
there's always one for you. Do you remember
Yeah.
when media monitors used to be like press clippings? That's how old I am. I remember it's like, oh, here's your document. It's several weeks, months old, but that's what was said at some point in a couple of weeks ago.
You were mentioned 7 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, so, Clarkey, what are you drinking?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. We've branched out a little bit today, and we've gone with a Bilson's Fruit Tangle, which is a premix vodka, but it tastes just like a fruit tingle. So I'll show you the glass. It's a lovely purpley colour, and let's have a quick taste. How very nice, very refreshing. Just like I'm drinking a fruit tingle, and could quite easily get drunk on those because it just tastes like you're drinking soft drink.
It looks a bit like a Ribena.
Yeah, it does a little bit. They're only, it's only really 3.5%, so it's not very alcoholic. And the bloke at the shop, because we're getting these for my niece's 21st, and the bloke at the shop said, because I was a bit worried about 21-year-old girls vomiting everywhere after having too many vodkas, but he said they'll vomit from the sugar before they vomit from the alcohol.
Oh, you thought well on the colour front then, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly right, all over the nice white carpet. How lovely.
Oh.
Anyway, that's what I'm drinking. How about you?
Speaking of Alco Pops, Schmidty.
Well,
I've just gone with straight metho today.
No. Firstly, I actually have here a Cosmopolitan that my sister made for me.
Oh.
And so this is the real deal with Grand Marnier and an ice vodka and cranberry. So I'll get through that one. But while this was being made for me and my sister and I were chatting earlier, I said to Tony, would you mind please on your way home getting some of those vodka cruisers for me that I had the other day, the free zero alcohol ones. They were very nice. They're only one standard drink each. They can keep me tidy. And as Carla and I were talking before we started recording, he walks in the door with a slab of 24 of them. So I have a box of vodka cruisers next to me.
He knows
so I
you
think
so
I'm
well.
good.
I hope that's not a challenge.
And Swanee. No, I'm not taking it as a challenge. I'm going to eke those out. And Swanee, how about you?
I'm off brand as usual. I was trial by whining last night, doing it at a Christmas party called Ham Night, and I went a little bit cray-cray on the matching pink wine, a bit of rosé with the ham, which was lovely. But I'm just on the soda water now before we head out to another Christmas do this evening. So apologies, I'm off brand, but I am doing I'm doing it after hours, promise.
That's all right. That's okay. We'll forgive you this time and every other time.
And my
every
nose.
other time. Yeah. And your nose, yes.
So
oh, you've noticed.
I suppose we should introduce ourselves. So I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are
Trial by Wine. Excellent.
Nice.
All right. So today I have a story for you.
Oh, yay.
Are you all settled?
Yes.
Are you ready to hear it?
Yes, super excited.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. This is, Crazy Town meets batshit crazy. So get ready for this.
All right. This is great.
Take the brave position.
What a great way to introduce your story.
It's a Christmas treat. Christmas crazy.
Carly, you might even remember this. So
God.
it may well be quite familiar to you because this happened when we were both in Europe, if let alone, I think we're probably both still living in the UK. Were you in the UK in 2008?
Yes.
Yeah. So this happened when we were there. I, by the way, have no memory of this ever happening, but we were there at the time. All right. So if you can recall the last case that I did, I was talking about family ties.
Yes.
And that was all about familial DNA.
And the
so
Night
this is
Stalker
another
and
story.
the later Night Stalker.
Yeah, and the not so famous Night Stalker.
And the pre-dawn Night Stalker.
The pre-dawn,
Night
That's
Stalker.
right.
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
The many stalkers of the night, that's right. So other than those, I was also I was talking about some, family connections and the things that bind us together. So this story is also pretty much about family.
Binding people together, like with handcuffs.
No, they don't bind anyone
cable
together.
ties or something.
No, this is about some siblings that are a bit too closely related.
Oh.
Well, I wrote that, and then I remembered later that I was probably going to offend Carla because my story is about twins.
Because Carla's married to her sister or brother.
No.
Oh, that's too close to home. Yeah.
No, more about twins. That's all. So
Well, you know that when I initially, you remember this, was pregnant with twins, I was totally freaked out because my biggest fear was that I'd have two identical girls who dressed identically and finished each other's sentences. I was like, oh my God, I cannot cope. So I was blessed with identical boys.
But you could, however, have made them do some acting work and they could have starred in the remake of The Shining. They would have been great.
Well, there you go. I hadn't thought of that at the time. I was too busy
yes.
freaking out about people finishing sentences and,
Well, that's exactly what I'm about to talk about. So before I do talk about that, my sources for the story were Wikipedia, walesonline.co.uk, ranker.com, and 60 Minutes.
Oh.
And
Still no lad Bible.
Hang on, wait a minute.
She's not finished yet. Hopefully
I'm not finished yet, thank you very much.
It's coming. Surely it's coming.
I was just going to say, and with the 60 Minutes piece, it's available on YouTube if you want to watch it. I'm going to torture YouTube by making you watch it. But if you're a listener and you want to watch it, it is available and it's quite graphic. So be warned.
Which 60
Now,
Minutes? Australian or American?
Australian.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember the name of the episode. It might be Madness on the Motorway. I'm not sure.
I just want to let you know that my dinner is still sitting quite high in my stomach, so this is going to be graphic.
No, it's not.
This could end badly.
No, it's not.
And I'm drinking purple fruit.
It's not a battered sap, so
so
you'll be right.
Or a bag of dicks.
It's not a bag of dicks. You'll be okay. Okay, so to your point, Paul, I did try to find something about this story on Lad Bible.
Yes.
However, sadly, the only twin story I could find was about two Australian twins wanting to get pregnant to the same man so they could have the same child or something like that.
They're in Perth, I think.
Yes, they are.
They are.
Wow.
Yes, they are.
So proud.
And are they whack jobs or are they just...
I'm not going to make a comment.
Yeah,
I read 2 lines of it and thought that's not what I'm looking for and moved on.
This is not for me.
Now, I'm sure you've... That's right, not for me. I'm sure you've heard stories about twins, like Carla was just talking about, that have uncanny connections. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, twins James Arthur Springer and James Edward Lewis were adopted by different families and grew up apart. In 1979, at the age of 39, they were reunited. And this is from the book Entwined Lives by Nancy Segal. I'm not sure if James and James, which is the first oddness about it, were identical twins, but they shared the following. They were both 6 feet tall and weighed 81 kilos. They both had been married twice to women named Linda and Betty. Not the same women, but women with the same first name.
Hang on, so had one of them been married to Linda and then Linda, and the other one been married to Betty and Betty, or was it Linda and Betty?
No, their first wives were Linda's.
They were Linda
and their second wives were Betty's, yeah.
Right.
How do you find 2 Bettys in this day and age?
Don't know. Well, this was 1979 when they met each other, and they were 39, so they'd already been married at this point. So older fashioned names.
Yep.
They named their sons the same name. This is before they met, so they both named their sons James Allen and James Allen, one spelt with 1 L and one spelt with 2 L's. Excuse me. Jeez. They both had a dog named Toy when they were growing up. Oh. They both worked in law enforcement as sheriffs. And they both smoked Salem's and drank Miller Lite beer. And they discovered all this as parallel lives before they'd ever met each other, and they grew up apart. They didn't even know they existed as twins.
Wow.
So, obviously, not all twins, like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger,
that's what I was thinking.
You know,
identical.
All the creepy girls in The Shining are as identical or noticeable, that's right. But certainly some interesting parallels for people who share the same DNA and grew up apart. Now, Carla, I know we've talked about your boys. I know they're not identical, but do they have any interesting shared characteristics or spooky connections?
No, they are absolutely useless. I'm sorry.
Yeah, their mum.
They are piss-weak twins. They are piss-weak twins.
Did you say they're numb?
Their mum.
They're piss-weak twins.
Their mum is the shared crazy connection.
Is the shared crazy connection?
They're quite different, and we don't have any of those fabulous stories. Occasionally, if someone's very sick or very upset, one of them will show the other one some empathy. That's about the most I can possibly put forward, because most of the time they don't care.
Right.
I remind them sometimes that they're twins, and sometimes I used to say, what about some twinny love? And I'll get them to hug, and they'll be looking at me going, oh, this is for you. This is for you, Mum, not for us.
So they're identical in their lack of care for each other?
Correct.
Yes, it's the only close. It's the only thing that they share.
They're just not that bothered.
Yeah, well, they do look very different too, or quite different. They just look like brothers.
When their
they don't
hair's
look like
wet, they look a little bit more similar. Their hair is quite a distinguishing factor. But if their hair is wet and off their face, you do see it and you think, oh, actually, yeah, they do look alike. But for the most part, people don't even really call them the twins. They've been at school with kids who didn't know that they were twins. So I think they're quite lucky in that respect. They just sort of get on with it as, brothers, and it's a bit of a novelty.
At the end of this story, I think you'll be quite thankful for that.
Oh, you know me. I think I probably programmed that way because I was so freaked out about them turning into...
About the shining twins that you were worried about them having. Yeah.
Remember that? I don't know if it's in the US or in the UK. Maybe it was in the UK. There used to be like a... I don't want to say a festival, but like not a convention, but it was a twins... A meeting of twins, and maybe it is in America, and thousands of them would come. They'd all be matched the same, and it was like, it was literally a picture of unhealthiness, and I'd be like, oh god, that's a freak show that I don't want to be participating in. So I'm not massive. Having said that, I dress them the same.
I was going to say you dressed your boys the same, though.
I always dress them the same, but I could do that because they look so different. It was sort of like that was the only people would say to me, "Oh, are they twins?" I was like, "Yeah, they are." Oh, really? You wouldn't know? Yeah.
It's more of a coincidence. It's just their crazy mother likes to dress them the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the identical twins that I'm going to tell you about are Sabina and Ursula Eriksson, who were born in Sweden on the 3rd of November 1967 and grew up in Sunne, Värmland, with an older sister named Mona and an older brother named Bjorn. By all accounts, they had a normal upbringing.
Like Mona Fanday?
It's like it, only
Malaysia.
in Sweden and not related.
You say it, pronounce it slightly different. Mona
Maybe it's Mona. That's right.
She had a few different careers. She might have had a few different nationalities. Who knows?
She might have, but we don't hear anything more about Mona after this moment. So we can fantasize as much as we like that she went to Malaysia and went on to have a career as a singer.
Happy to do that.
Anyway, by all accounts, they had a normal upbringing, no history of abuse or anything untoward, totally ordinary. In 2000, Ursula was living in the United States and Sabina was living in Mallow, County Cork Island with her spouse and 2 children.
How old are they at that point? 40? Did you say they were born in the 60s?
They are born in 67, so in 2000 they would have
33.
been...
So they're quite young, actually.
33, yeah.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. And then in 2008, Ursula decided to visit her sister Sabina in Ireland. So, in May 2008, when Ursula decided to visit her sister, within 24 hours of her arrival, the 2 of them inexplicably took a ferry to Liverpool. Upon arriving in the English port city, the twins paid...
Why would you do that?
Did they do this together? Together.
Pardon?
They did this
together. Yeah, together. Yeah. So Ursula arrives, and within 24 hours, both of them just disappear. Decide to take a ferry and go over to Liverpool.
I smell a rat.
Which is odd. It was odd. Anyway, so upon arriving in the English port city, the twins paid a visit to the St Anne Street police station to report concerns over Sabina's children, whom she'd left with her partner back in Ireland. Liverpool police contacted Dublin to follow up the request, learning that Sabina had had a fight with her partner the previous night. At around 11:30 that morning, the pair then boarded a National Express coach headed to London. So at this point, you think, oh, well, she had a fight with her partner. Maybe that's why they decided we're off to Liverpool and we'll go to London. We'll just jump a ferry. A bit weird, though, given that they were 40, I think, at this point, or 39.
Yeah.
But when she went to the police station, she said she was concerned for her children. Is that because they were with her husband back in Ireland?
Yeah, and when they rang the police, they basically determined that, yes, there had been a fight with the partner, but there was no evidence that there was any issue with the children. The children were not abused. The Dublin police, I think, did a welfare check and said there's nothing to worry about here.
I love how
the police...
the Liverpudlian police ring the Dublin police, even though they live in County Cork. We've got to ring Ireland. Shit, it must be Dublin.
You know,
it's not that far. I've driven from Dublin to Cork. It's not that far.
And it'd be bloody annoying if you're the Dublin police going, shit, they've done it again. They always ring us whenever it's anything to do with Ireland. Yeah, well, I hope that's what they did.
Yeah. Okay, so they were behaving erratically on the bus. Remember, they're on the National Express coach, of which I caught many of in my days in the UK because I was poor.
I caught a few myself, darling.
Yep. And so they were being weird. So they wouldn't let the staff check their bags, and the bus driver decided to kick them off at the services at Keele.
Why?
Because they were being weird.
Bags?
So they were argumentative. No, they just had they just had rucksacks or something on them, and they were weird about it. They were hanging on to them. This is 2008, so Carla, remind me of when. Yeah.
2007 was...
yes, the bus bombings.
Yep, correct.
So
you wouldn't want to be anywhere with a backpack at that point, correct?
Correct.
So,
yeah, the context of the time, and we both lived through this, was that there was a much heightened sensitivity to especially foreigners, but anyone with who was being weird about a bag. Absolutely. And so the bus people said, oh, we'll check your bags for you. They said, don't touch them. No, you mustn't touch them. And they were weird about it. And, of course, as Carla said, there'd been the attacks on London, buses and tubes had been blown up. So people in England were sensitive about it.
To be fair, not by the Swedes.
The driver thought... No, but at that point in time, it was a bit of can't trust anyone with a rucksack.
Yep.
You know, that poor Brazilian guy got shot, same thing. It was just anyone with a bag. It was a very heightened sensitivity around these things at the time. And look, I lived through it, and I was similarly scared. So, I'm not going to pick on people for that. So the driver advised the services manager at Keele that these women were being really weird, and she thought they were a bit odd too, so she called the police. But the police who attended thought they were perfectly harmless and let them go because there was no sign of a bomb. They seemed calm. It was weird.
What was that?
That
was a truck going past Paul Stewart, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome
That's
to the
why
country.
I paused for it.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's impressive.
Yeah. So then, and this is where things get really weird, they start to walk up the M6 motorway in the Central Reservation. So
Where's Kiel, darling? Do I need to know that?
up north. So once you've gone from Birmingham, the M6 is the major motorway that takes you up to Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I went for the
I think
mic.
it goes Manchester, Birmingham,
Goodness.
Liverpool, and then up to Preston and
Okay. So
up
they haven't
into
got
Scotland.
close to London, so they're still a fair way above.
They're still fair way out.
Right, got it.
And but they're in the central
It's a
reservation. Central reservation of the motorway, which has got maybe 2 meters, I think, in it, and it's basically 2 barriers. And Paul and Stuart, I know you've been to the UK as well, but we're talking about usually, I think, 3 or 4 lane highways here, where people are travelling at 70 miles an hour, and often a lot more than that. And the M6 is a fairly highly populated motorway as well, so it's
Probably
like the
even bigger.
M25.
Yeah, probably got 4
Yeah.
lanes
So
each way.
so like a lot of traffic, a lot of trucks, constant moving traffic, and they're just going for a walk down the middle of the reservation.
It's probably because they
Which
didn't
was
want to
odd.
play Frogger to get off it.
Oh no.
How they got themselves in there, who knows?
They obviously just crossed the road at some point. Yeah.
Why did the Swedes
And
cross
so
the road?
then they decide to get to the other side, and here we go, Paul. So then they attempt to cross it. So they come out of the Central Reservation and they start to cross across it. Well, they picked up a few, let's call them minor injuries, because they are minor injuries in the attempt. Sabina got struck by a Seat Leon.
Jesus.
I'm not sure why Tony thought that was funny, but he did.
It's minor.
I do, because I haven't heard that word for a while. I see it. Yep.
A Seat
Yeah.
Leon.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember the car.
And
That is
apparently their older brother claimed in a Swedish newspaper that his sisters were fleeing from maniacs who were chasing them down. But there's no evidence whatsoever of
Yeah,
that being
how
the
do you know
case.
that?
None. So, I don't know. So, what's interesting about this case, though, is that you're never far from CCTV cameras in the
Yeah.
UK.
Certainly on a motorway.
The highways agencies have got CCTV cameras all the way along, and so they filmed this. So there is footage of the two of them walking along the Central Reservation and then crossing over. And when I say one of them got hit by they did cross, by the Seat Leon, she only got clipped, so she wasn't badly injured at all.
Like by the mirror or something.
So the highway... Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched that. I'll show you what I have watched, though, in a minute. So Highways Agency officers responded to the incident, and the police from the Central Motorway Police Group were called to assist. Now, this is where it gets even more bizarre. The police were accompanied by a small television crew who happened to be filming motorway cops.
We're filming what?
Motorway cops.
Oh,
So there was one I think BBC or one cameraman in the back of the car, and they've got the dash cam and all that set up because they're filming, what was like the American cops, but this is the UK motorway cops, right?
Yep.
And if you are interested, you can see this program on Foxtel's Crime and Investigation channel. So standing
What's it
on the
called?
north
Motorway
direction,
Cops. Sorry.
motorway cops, yeah.
I thought you meant a story about this actual incident, but
No, I don't know which one this made it into, if any.
it doesn't take a lot to confuse me.
It's okay. Standing on the north direction, hard shoulder of the motorway. So basically when you break down, the lane that you break down in.
Yeah.
the hard shoulder.
Yeah, well, hard shoulder, but
Yeah,
I don't know that we
I don't
call
know.
it that here in Australia.
Emergency lane.
Maybe we do. Emergency lane. Thank you. Yes. The police driving up really fully expected to see some, seriously injured people, and was surprised that both women were relatively unharmed. In fact, they were just standing around talking to the other officers that had attended the scene. But as the police were being appraised of the situation, without warning, Ursula broke free and ran into the side of an oncoming Mercedes-Benz Actros 2546 articulated lorry,
Oh.
which was travelling at that time at about 56 miles per hour, about 90 k's.
Into the side of it.
Yeah,
That's
don't
not
worry.
clever.
I'll show you this footage.
Oh, could you?
You'll
That'd be
see this in a
great.
sec. Sabina, it's okay. They survive. So that's the only reason I'm prepared to show it.
Only because she ran into the side of it, not the front of it. Like, what?
Yeah, but the policeman who saw this happen, and I mean, it is quite wild, this footage, he could not believe she survived it. And I get where he's coming from. Fortunately, when I say I show you the footage, you don't see a lot of it because the policeman's in front of the camera. So his head actually blocks the worst of it, but, it's still pretty bad. But then Sabina, the other twin, pushes away too and follows her onto the road and gets hit head on by a Volkswagen Polo travelling at high speed. Smashes right up onto it, into the windscreen, flies over it, and is down on the ground. So as promised.
What? I have no idea what is going on.
Yeah.
I know, and
So-
that's why I'm going to show
I'm
you, because I
utterly perplexed.
feel like you need to see it to understand it.
I
You've
feel
got
like
me
I
on the
don't.
edge of my seat. I've got... Yeah.
No. Don't worry. It's not that bad. I promise you. I wouldn't show you something that's dreadful. I've just got to find it.
Just a couple of crazy Swedish people running into cars.
Here we go. The 60 Minutes thing is psychotic identical highway twins run into Britain's busiest motorway. There you go.
There's a heading
That
for
sounds
you.
like a good name for a story. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's with the background music?
Well, I've actually muted it on purpose so you don't have to listen to it. But anyone who wants to look this up, yes, it's called Psychotic Identical Highway Twins Run into Britain's Busiest Motorway, 60 Minutes Australia. Now, I've gone to minute 2:01 and I'm only going to show a little bit of this. This is where the policeman first gets out of the car and, I just said about they expected them to be injured and yet they're standing around. So you can watch this. There you go. There's there they are, both of the twins chatting to the policeman.
What's that over there?
Looking quite calm, having a dart. As they come over and they're having a little chat, she's chatting to the policeman in the background with the red thing, and any moment now, crazy Ursula, for no apparent reason, runs out onto the road and gets hit by a truck.
Oh,
There we go.
You dumb guy.
And you see her... No.
Are they drugged?
Oh, we're going to watch it. So
Oh my god! Oh my
policeman
god!
tries to stop her and bang.
Old
And
mate
now watch
Big Head.
Crazy Sabina.
I can do
There
that
goes
too.
Sabina.
We're twins. Oh, bang.
What the says the poor policeman?
What?
Look at these police just pulling all the traffic down, trying to stop everyone else from coming in. Here she goes. We've got another dramatic replay of Ursula.
Oh, bang.
See the jacket?
She's like she's headbutted
I
it.
know.
What is going on?
I reckon Sabine's gone.
No
I'll
one
give you
knew.
$100 if you headbutt that truck.
And
Are we going to find out?
there you go. Yeah. Oh, there's Sabina. Did you see that?
Ah.
That's Sabina
Oh.
hitting the windscreen.
That's a windscreen
Mm-hmm.
with some damage.
Okay, it's quite enough of that.
Oh, these poor people on the road. Oh,
Everyone on the
awful.
road, the police dealing with it, like horrible. And as you say, what the? Right?
Why? What are they? What are they on?
I'm
There's
going to
a
tell
bet.
you. They're not
There's a
on
bet.
anything. They're not on anything.
They're high
it's
on
not
life?
a bet. It's
No.
not a bet. No, and it wasn't a suicide pact. They're high on life, yeah. Okay, so incredibly both survived. Ursula was immobilised as the lorry had crushed her legs, and Sabina spent 15 minutes unconscious, having been smacked by the car.
The Polo.
Volvo.
Was it a Volvo? Thank you, the Volvo. The pair were treated by paramedics. However, and by the way, you can see this also in the 60-minute program, but I don't think you need to. The paramedics are trying to treat Ursula, but she resisted medical aid by spitting, scratching, and screaming. She told the policeman restraining her, "I recognise you. I know you're not real." And Sabina, 15 minutes later, now conscious, shouted, "They're going to steal your organs!" To the surprise of the police. I don't know why.
That's a random thing to yell.
Go on. Isn't it? Just to the surprise of the police, Sabina got to her feet like nothing had happened, despite attempts to persuade her to stay on the ground. So this is not the one with the crushed legs. The one with the crushed legs couldn't get up. which is just as well, actually.
Why is
Can
that?
I just ask
So-
a quick question? Who did worse, the is it called articulated lorry or the Volvo? Which did the most damage?
To the vehicle.
No, to the girls. Which
Oh,
who
the
did
lorry. The
legs
lorry.
of the lorry.
Legs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Legs are in the
Because she
lorry.
went under one of the tyres. She went
Yes.
under the wheel. And
Well,
she was just lucky her head
seems
wasn't...
fair. Oh, God.
Yeah,
that's
she
amazing.
just lucky it was not her head or her spine. You know, like she was
Unbelievable.
extraordinarily lucky. Yeah.
Well, you say that, but it depends what she was trying to do. Like, if she was trying to off herself, she wasn't very lucky. She might have
Yep.
wanted her head under that wheel. Just saying.
Oh, God.
She might have. We don't know why they did what they did. But anyway. Sabina, as I said, started screaming for help and calling for the police, even though they were present and trying to help her. Then she punches an officer in the face and then crossed over the road and ran into traffic on the other side of the motorway. Also available on that footage.
They're not the sharpest tools in the
Now-
shed.
No, they're not. Well, they're not. Anyway, so she's on the other side of the motorway, and by this time, fortunately, there wasn't a great deal of traffic on the other side, probably because we'd had a major incident and the police were, you know, like you get rubberneckers slowing down
Everyone's
anyway, but the police had
rubbernecking,
actually
yeah.
already started to, but also people had started to slow down a lot because there was clearly an incident. And it was, at this point, there's plenty of police around trying to manage this
Restrain them?
incredible situation, yeah. Emergency workers and several members of the public and the police caught up with her on the other side of the road, restrained her and carried her to a waiting ambulance, at which point she was handcuffed and sedated.
Good.
She was wild. If you watch it, she's absolutely wild. It took 6 people to restrain her. And they said it was like she had superhuman strength. And you should see her get up, right? So she's been knocked out cold by being hit by the car. She gets up. She's a little staggery at first. And then she's full pelt to the, start walking to the middle reservation. And there's the policeman that she punched as a woman. And the policeman, she's like, come here, darling, stop that. And she grabs her by the coat, I think. And she turns around, she pulls her coat off, and she whacks this policeman, like, really hard and punches her. And then she jumps over and she's on the other side. So it's really bizarre behaviour.
When she landed
Okay.
in the reservation, did she yell barley?
I didn't hear it. But she does have a Swedish accent, so maybe I didn't understand it.
Yeah. Because I
Maybe
just feel
she
like
did.
she's whacked that copper and then just gone, right, I'm going to go into a safe space. Barley,
You're it.
can't get me
That's
back.
right. Can't touch me here. That's right. Oh, my Lord. So the police reported that she had incredible strength. Both of them did, actually. And given the similarities in their behaviours, a suicide pact or drug use was quickly suspected, as you probably would suspect.
But there was no diarrhea, was there?
There was no diarrhea.
Not drugs.
There were no
then.
bits and pieces on your shoulders. There was none of that.
Yeah.
No. Lot less comic, the behaviour
Yes.
here. But also no drugs. So Ursula was taken to hospital by air ambulance. Sabina was taken to hospital in a normal ambulance. And despite her ordeal,
Can
she
you not
showed
fit
a
2
complete
people in
lack
an
of-
air ambulance?
Maybe they tried to keep them separate.
I don't know why they took them separately. Probably because they were both cray-cray. And
Yeah.
also one, I think, may have gone to a different hospital.
They'd feed off each
Because of
other.
the state of her of
Yeah.
the injuries. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
At any rate, when Sabina was taken to hospital, she showed absolutely no concern for her sister's injuries or situation. She didn't ask about her at all. And she became quite calm and controlled. And she was released 5 hours later. In police custody, because
Or released from the
Oh,
hospital
that's-
but gone.
yeah.
from the
Right.
hospital, yeah.
Good.
In
Okay,
police
now, good.
custody, though,
That
because she
naughtiness.
punched a policewoman
Yes,
and
and
caused
ran
a
across
great
the motorway.
fracas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
She remained relaxed, and while being processed, she joked with an officer. Oh, I don't think I can do it, but I'm going to try. I can't do it. We say in Sweden, I was going to do a Swedish accent, but I just can't, because I'm trying to get my inner IKEA out, and it's not working.
Go on,
We
'cause
say
I
in
just
Sweden
think you
that-
should have a crack at it.
No, it was going to come out as Dutch or something. It was all wrong. We say in Sweden that an accident rarely comes alone. Usually at least one or more follows. Maybe 2.
lemmings?
Apparently lemmings don't actually commit suicide, but maybe. Well, you'll find out. I'll tell you what happened.
So they're not like lemmings then because they're trying to...
They weren't trying to commit suicide. They weren't.
What were they trying to do? Like trying to get away from something?
Hey, Ursula, $50 if you
They've
headbutt that
never
Mercedes.
explained it, but...
All right. I'll give you 100 if you jump in front of that Polo.
Oh, God.
Oh, I thought it was a Volkswagen.
Volvo, that Volvo, mate.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
reckon they're safe.
Right.
See how safe they actually are. All right, so on May 2008, Sabina was released from court without a full psychiatric evaluation, having pleaded guilty to the charges of trespass on the motorway and hitting a police officer. The court sentenced her to 1 day in custody, which she had been deemed to have served
That is a
already,
rubbish
having
sentence.
spent a full night in police custody.
Why was she not assessed? You said that she wasn't, correct? You said that...
I did say that she
Without-
wasn't. And
yeah.
I want you to think about that. When we get to the crimes, what are the crimes? We need to think about the fact that, yes, she wasn't assessed. She was released after 5. She was knocked unconscious for 15 minutes. You know, does it seem okay that she was let out of hospital 5 hours later? Anyway, I'm not as we've already established in previous episode, medical expert, but I would have thought that you
Little bit
probably would have been
excessive,
monitored
Maybe they were
overnight
just
for something
releasing
like
her
that,
into the
in case you
police
had a
for a
brain
good
bleed or
bashing.
something.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
A good in custody. Yeah.
yeah, but even that didn't seem to happen. She was joking around with the police, you know.
Shits and giggles on the motorway. We do it
Yeah.
sometimes.
Gave no explanation.
You're lucky
as
we
to-
had our clothes on. Oh, yeah. We have a sauna and then a run up the motorway.
yeah, who knows? Leaving court, Sabina
Looking
began
for
to
another
wander
motorway?
around the streets of Stoke-on-Trent, trying to locate her sister in hospital. No, looking for her sister and carrying her possessions in a clear plastic bag given to her by police. She was also wearing her sister's green top.
We did.
At 7 p.m., which we saw in the footage. You know, the one that went under the lorry?
Yes.
Yeah. At 7 p.m., 2 local men spotted Sabina while walking their dog on Christchurch Street in Fenton. One of the men was 54-year-old Glenn Hollinshead, a self-employed welder,
Lucky he was
qualified
Hollinshead and not
paramedic, and
Swedish
former
head.
RAF airman. Hollinshead, that's right.
You sound like you'd be quite a useful person to have around.
Yeah, he was a very nice person. And the other was his friend Peter Malloy. Sabina appeared friendly and stroked the dog as the 3 struck up a conversation. Although friendly, Sabina appeared to be behaving nervously, which worried Malloy. Sabina asked the 2 men for directions to any nearby bed and breakfasts or hotels, because she's literally wandering the streets of Stoke-on-Trent.
With a plastic.
She's got
clear
no
plastic
accommodation. She doesn't know where her sister is. She's a foreigner. She's just been released by police, having been hit by a car and being weird as. We'll just let her go. No worries. And we won't make sure that there's any way, won't put her into a shelter or call home for her. Nothing. Admittedly, she's a 40-year-old woman or 39-year-old woman, but still. Anyway, I'm sorry. I am perhaps biasing the jury's position on this, so I'm going to stop that now. So Hollinshead took pity on her and instead offered to take her back to his house at nearby Duke Street because there weren't any B&Bs or hotels around, right? She accepted and relaxed as she began to relate how she was trying to locate her hospitalised sister. Back at the house, over drinks, her odd behaviour continued as she constantly got up and looked out of the window, leading Malloy to assume that she had run away from an abusive partner. She appeared paranoid. Oh, this made me laugh. Offering the men cigarettes, only to quickly snatch them out of their mouths, claiming they may be poisoned, and then
Jesus.
lighting them and smoking them herself. Anyway, shortly before midnight, Malloy left and Sabina stayed the night. The next day, around midday, Hollinshead called his brother regarding local hospitals in order to locate Sabina's sister, Ursula. At 7:40 p.m., While a meal was being prepared, Hollinshead left the house to ask a neighbour for tea bags and then went back inside. 1 minute later, he staggered back outside, now bleeding, and told him, "She stabbed me," before collapsing to the ground and dying from his injuries.
Oh! That's some way to say thanks for the bed.
I don't think she liked the tea. She probably preferred a Lady Grey.
Here's my view of what's going on. If they were topless. Go, Ursula! Get the Mercedes!
Go, Sabina! Go, Sabina!
God.
Okay, so as the neighbour dialed 999, Sabina fled the premises.
Hang on.
And was caught on the run by nearby
When
CCTV.
she fled, was it like this? She whipped her top off and fled through the streets of Stoke-on-Trent.
Oh, if only. As the neighbour dialed 999, Sabina fled the premises. And was caught on the run.
Topless.
Topless. She wasn't topless.
By Benny Hill.
That's
Was
the
she in a
late one.
nurse's uniform?
She kept patting the little bald man on the head. She was caught on the run by nearby CCTV. She ran out of the house with a hammer, periodically hitting herself over the head with it. Not patting a bald man.
It's like-
as it turns.
What were those ones called? Groucho and Mo.
Marx Brothers.
The Marx Brothers.
You know the one that used to bop each other on the
Three
head.
Stooges.
The Three Stooges. That's who
right.
it is.
Yeah.
You know, they used to bop each other on the head.
The one stooge.
It's the Two Stooges.
So a passing motorist saw this and decided to tackle her in an attempt to take control of the hammer. While wrestling with him, Sabina screamed and took out a roof tile out of her pocket and struck him on the back of the head with it, stunning him temporarily.
She's like
She's grabbed a
MacGyver.
hammer, she's grabbed a roof tile. She's
I'm
MacGyver.
not really enjoying her as a character today. Is she?
No, she's not enjoyable.
No.
By
She's
this
not my
time,
favourite Swede.
paramedics... No.
She's very reckless.
We'll get to why. By this time, paramedics had found her and gave chase. The pursuit ended at
Was
Heron
it syphilis?
Cross. No, it wasn't syphilis. But it is another syndrome. By this time, they found her, gave chase. The pursuit ended when Sabina jumped from a 12-metre high bridge on the A50, which is 40-foot.
Why did the chase end?
She jumped off a
They're
bridge.
very attracted to these busy motorways, aren't they? They've got a thing.
Yeah.
Whoever was chasing her just wasn't committed to catching her.
She was pretty fast. Remember, she had superhuman strength, and she was not.
But what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to end just because she jumped off a bridge.
Well, what
If
what
it's
helped?
a committed chase, she'd.
Yeah, but what helped was she broke both her ankles, and fractured her skull in the fall. So it made it easy to catch her in the end.
Oh yeah, with no rush then. We'll just.
Bit of an
Yeah, right.
advantage at that point.
Yeah, I've got you now, you crazy Swedish lady.
Advantage paramedics. So anyway, she got taken to hospital. On the 6th of June 2008. Yes. So this is like 36 hours after her original hospital visit. On the 6th
How
of
many
June...
hours was she in hospital this time?
I'd say a while, because she...
7?
what was the date? I can answer that, actually.
Well, you didn't really need to. I just figured they might just be like a drive-through service. Just a bit of
19th
gaffer
of
tape around her
May.
head and...
Okay, so 6th of June. So 19th, it was the day after, so it was about the 20th of May that
About
she...
3 weeks?
20th or 21st of May that she killed this guy. So, yeah, on the
Busy couple
6th
of
of...
days.
6th of June, yep, she was arrested while recovering at University Hospital of North Staffordshire and was discharged in a wheelchair on the 11th of September 2008, at which point she was taken into custody and charged with murder the same day. Which doesn't make any...
She's in hospital for a long time.
Yeah. Ursula was also released from hospital in September and relocated uneventfully back to Sweden.
In September.
But
Well,
she lived
Ursula
in
had
Ireland.
crushed legs.
Didn't she live in Ireland? Or was it
Ursula
Ireland?
lived in the US,
Yeah.
US
Right, okay,
and Sabina lived in
Lived
Ireland.
in Ireland. My mistake.
Yeah.
But didn't Sabina have something about her skull and both her ankles broken?
She had broken ankles. Both her ankles were broken and a fractured skull. Yep.
That's worth a couple more weeks than a couple of weeks, I reckon.
It's quite a long
Well,
time to be
no.
hospital for
She
that.
was there for longer than that because it says she was arrested on the 6th of June, but she was discharged from the
Gotcha.
hospital on the 11th of September. So she was in hospital.
Oh, sorry, I missed that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
they were
yeah,
both
makes
hospitalised
sense
for
now.
quite some time. Yep.
I think I've caught up.
Okay, good. So Ursula was released from hospital, went to Sweden and then back to the US. The trial for Sabina was scheduled on February 2009, but was adjourned after the court encountered difficulties in obtaining her medical records from Sweden. The trial was then scheduled to start on the 1st of September 2009. Sabina pleaded guilty to manslaughter with diminished responsibility on the 2nd of September 2009, having stabbed her victim 5 times with a kitchen knife. At no point during her interrogation or during the trial did she explain her actions, only replying no comment to extensive police questioning. Similarly, at no time was the video from the M6 used in evidence in the court. Both the prosecution and defence claimed that Sabina was insane at the time of the killing, although she'd become sane again by the time of her trial. The defence counsel...
Both the prosecution and the defence.
Yep. Everyone was pretty comfortable.
Wow, they're in
that she was-
agreement.
They were in agreement. This is right. So, the defence counsel in the trial claimed that Erickson was a secondary sufferer of folie à deux, influenced by the presence or perceived presence of her twin sister, the primary sufferer. So, are you interested in knowing what a folie à deux is?
Yes, please.
Is it cheese? Is it a cheese dish?
Sounds like a cheese, doesn't
with
it?
herrings?
No. Be nice. I like the idea of cheese. This is a little excerpt from psychiatrist.com. Shared delusional disorder is a rare condition wherein a similar delusion system is shared by 2 or more patients in a close and often long-term relationship. It is also referred to as delusional symptoms in partner of individuals with delusional disorder, which isn't as catchy in my opinion. An induced
Correct.
psychotic disorder, folie à trois, folie à famille, shared paranoid disorder, double insanity, les aigues syndrome, psychosis by association, and most commonly, folie à deux. Shared delusional disorder has 4 subtypes. Folie imposée, healthy secondary imbibes the delusions of a psychotic primary, which is, I think, what we're... No, actually, it's not what we've got here. Folie simultanée, 2 patients, each with a psychotic illness, concurrently develop shared beliefs. Folie communiquée, which is similar to folie imposée, but preceded by a period of resistance from the secondary. And folie induite. Psychotic illness affects both individuals, but unlike folie simultanée, one patient takes on the partner's delusion, and I suspect that might be what was happening here. When considering the etiologic factors of the disorder, the most important seems to be the familial and interpersonal dynamics. The inducer, the primary, usually plays a dominant role with an impressionable secondary who might have limited intellect or personality disorder.
Is that why she went the truck and Sabine only went the polo?
Well, they were both suffering from it.
Because she's not dominant? Yeah, but the
No,
dominant
Ursula
one goes
was-
for the bigger vehicle.
Ursula was the dominant one, yeah. She went
Yeah,
first.
so she went for the bigger vehicle. I can
She went first,
take
though.
the truck, you take the polo.
Yeah. You just get over there and stay in your lane.
You're not dominant enough to go the truck.
That's right.
They might look heavy.
So the court also heard that Sabina had suffered from a rare psychiatric disorder which made her hear voices but couldn't interpret what they said, as well as an alternative theory that she'd suffered from acute polymorphic delusional disorder. Her plea was accepted
Sounds to me like she needed an interpreter.
Was there any background to this, or is this all as a result of this one incident? Like, were they able to go back and find? There's just nothing that precedes this.
Well, the trial was delayed because they were trying to get records about her health from Sweden, and really, all they have mentioned beyond that is that she had been suffering from some psychiatric disorders, to hear voices, etc. So she was. This is what I was saying. If I was, and I'm not diagnosing her because I'm not a psychiatrist, but that folie en duit, which was the psychotic illness affecting both individuals. So I think they both had issues, but unlike the other one, one patient takes on the partner's delusion. I think Sabina was feeding off Ursula. We don't know much about Ursula because Ursula wasn't in this trial because Ursula didn't kill anyone.
Correct.
Not feeding off her in the context of eating her face like that story that Carla told us a while back. Not literally feeding off her, or more metaphorically feeding off her. Excellent point to clarify.
Yep. So her plea was accepted by the prosecution at Nottingham Crown Court on the 2nd of September 2010. Justice Saunders concluded that Sabina had a low level of culpability for her actions.
What?
Because she was clinically insane at the time?
Justice Saunders went on to say, I understand that this sentence will seem entirely inadequate to the relatives of the deceased. However, I have sentenced on the basis that the reason for the killing was the mental illness, and therefore the culpability of the defendant is low, and therefore the sentence I have passed is designed to protect the public. It is not designed to reflect the grief the relatives have suffered or to measure the value of Mr. Hollingshead's life. No sentence that I could pass could do that. It is a sentence which I hope fairly measures a truly tragic event. Sabina was suffering from delusions which she believed to be true, and they dictated her behaviour. It is not one of those cases where the defendant could have done something to avoid the onset. That's the sentencing judge. So Sabina was sentenced to 5 years in prison and was sent to Bronzefield Women's Prison, where she turned to Christianity. She served 2.5 years in jail and was eventually deported back to Sweden. Many questions were left unanswered. Some called for an investigation into the way the criminal justice system handled the matter.
Absolutely.
Including Peter Malloy and MP for Stoke South Rob Flello, that's actually his name. Glenn Hollingshead's brother Gary was critical of the justice system, which he viewed as enabling the murder, stating, "We don't hold her responsible, the same we wouldn't blame a rabid dog for biting someone. She's ill and to a large degree not responsible for her actions, but her mental disorder should have been recognised much earlier. I do question the criminal justice system for allowing somebody like this to be let out when she's capable of committing such a crime. Her mental condition should have been properly assessed after what she did on the motorway and the experiences the police had. Her mental disorder should have been picked up prior to her being let out into the community. Glenn saw Erickson in distress and was just trying to help. He wasn't slow in coming forward to help somebody in distress. It was in his nature. He was trying to help. He'd help anyone. If he saw a fight in the street and a guy was losing, he would help." And Ursula is believed to be living in the USA, and it is absolutely unknown as to where Sabina is now. And that is the case of Sabina and Ursula Eriksson. So, when we talk about the crime, obviously not only the judge but also the victim's family have not exonerated Sabina, but have very much recognised that Sabina was behaving in a fashion due to mental illness. So obviously there's a manslaughter, or diminished responsibility kind of thing there. But, this is a bit like mediocre manslaughter. The lack of the psychiatric assessment, letting her out after a day, not detaining her in hospital. Did she even have scans after being knocked unconscious?
Yeah.
There was nothing about the treatment she received at the hospital. It just seems to me there were plenty of opportunities to head the tragedy off at the pass.
Who does that fall with, Schmidty? So she's gone into hospital having just put herself and people on the motorway, plus the police, everybody at risk. She was hit. She was unconscious. She did go to hospital. When she was allowed out, who could have stopped that? Should it have been people within the hospital or the police? Really, shouldn't it be?
When she was let out,
The
she went to
polo
the
driver
police
could
station.
have.
So she was.
I don't think the polo driver is totally off the hook on this.
What about the original, the Seat Leon? Maybe this all could have been avoided if he hadn't clipped her to start with.
See? Or if he had have got her properly.
What about her husband and kids? Do they have
Yeah,
anything to say?
fascinating.
What happened there?
I'm glad you asked, because I couldn't find anything on whether or not she
very
returned to Ireland, whether or not where her children are, and where her spouse was. The spouse is never named in anything either, so there's obviously a privacy thing there. So I don't know. She may have gone back to Ireland and been with him in the end. Difficult to tell you. And there was nothing
Did they look
prior
for
to this.
Did they look for medical records in Ireland? Given that's where she lived.
No, they looked for them in Sweden, as far as I know.
They're bloody idiots.
Because she was Swedish, not Irish.
She was raised in Sweden as well, so most of her medical records would have been in Sweden, Mr. Smarty McSmartface.
What nationality was her husband?
I bet
Irish.
He was. So, well,
I bet they rung Dublin and said, "Have you got any medical records?"
They're
No.
like, "No,
Okay.
To be sure,
That's
to be
what
sure.
I tried.
County Court.
I tried.
Yeah. Never mind.
No, you don't want that one. Now, you see that medical record. You don't want that one.
Raise
Anyway.
more questions than anything. I'm annoyed.
Yeah, I knew you would be.
Now, can I just
so-
clarify one thing? So,
Yep.
you did say something that I may have misheard.
Yeah.
Did you say that you think Sabina or Ursula, is there sort of like one of them who drives the the mental condition? Is it like that and the other one then feeds off that? It doesn't happen in tandem per se. It becomes like that. But how does it start with one?
Yeah. Well, I'm not pretending to be an expert
no.
in folie à deux.
But that's
But from what I
understood.
read on it,
Yes.
basically and it can happen, like, it can be a whole family thing. It's a fairly rare disorder, but there are cases of, like, families who, so it's like they get a mass hysteria. They get a moment of hysteria. They all believe the same delusion,
Wow.
and they all act accordingly. So there was one family that suddenly decided the world was going to end and drove packed up everything in the car and drove 1,000 kilometres. And it was literally a whole delusion that they all shared together. So
Is that
I think I was just going to say, I think the theory is that Ursula had some
Mental health issue, yeah.
pre-existing mental health issues. Nothing super bad. Obviously, Sabina had something as well, but when they came together, they shared this delusion, and that was when they decided to get on the ferry and
Run
so
the
this whole
motorways.
thing, and run on the motor. It's inexplicable.
It's a
Sorry,
very
go on,
strange
Paul.
plan.
Oh no, I was just thinking about when you're saying, whole families becoming delusional. It's like whole parts of the population thinking that they're going to catch something from a vaccine, or that it all started because of 5G. Is that the same syndrome?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's probably got another name. In the world of psychiatry, I'll look it up. It's probably something Latin that sounds like criminalously dumbness, but I'm not sure. I'll have to check that.
Fuckwitty.
I'll have to check my Latin. So over to you guys to think through the crime and the sentencing. All right, we hope you're enjoying the show. We are a completely independent podcast and we want as many people to hear us as possible. We need your help. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Facebook at Trial by Wine, where we share our updates, and contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. We can't thank you enough for your support. Now, back to the show.
Well, I'm just it's quite a disturbing story, and I know I've probably said some inappropriate things, but it's just my way of coping with it because it's just all kinds of messed up.
It is. I need some motive to work with. It's I feel like we've just
That's
left
the problem.
hanging
There
time.
is no
It's hard,
motive.
isn't it?
And killing the bloke, there was no motive for that. It was just there may have been a motive, but it was in her head and her head alone. So, and she's never said, I got frightened, I thought he was going to attack me, the voices told me to do it. She's never given any explanation, and I think that's what's been difficult for the family as well. Just saying she was, cray-cray, batshit crazy, isn't enough for people to sort of go, oh, well, I understand, especially if you haven't experienced significant mental health issues.
Yeah.
So,
I
get your
her
point.
husband I don't know if was the one who'd come in from the US, was she single?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
But they must, because you did mention at one point that the brother had said that they were being chased.
I don't know
Where'd
where he
that
got that
come
from. No idea. Maybe I think he maybe just
Maybe
made
he's got
that
the
up.
same syndrome.
Maybe he's like folie à toi.
Folie à toi, that's right.
Yeah,
Could be.
that's...
Could be.
Yes.
And he's only not running into the motorway because he wasn't with them at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And had Mona
And there was no Benny Hill
Folie à
music
quatre.
playing.
That's right. Folie à quoi.
with Mona.
Sorry, Paul. Yes, with the Benny Hill music in the background.
That had to inspire it somehow, didn't it?
Yeah, probably.
It's very disappointing. It's disappointing
Yeah,
that
it doesn't
got to
leave
that.
me...
For me, it's one of those abject failures of the system.
Yes.
They shouldn't have been... Well, I can understand the bus driver throwing them out. The first lot of police who came to detain them, leaving them at the services, like they'd been thrown off a bus. And it wasn't a scheduled bus stop. So where were they going to go? How were they going to get from... You know what services are like on the side of a motorway? Mm. They're literally just there for the traffic on the motorway. How are they going to get somewhere else? Now, I'm not saying the police are responsible. The police aren't responsible for ferrying people around. But if you're called to a scene and there's these two people there, they've both just got off a bus. You should look at their passports. They've just come into the country.
I hadn't made that connection. Because I was like, why are they in a motorway? Why would they want to go to a motorway? They didn't.
They didn't. The bus driver threw them off.
I wasn't thinking like that. So they had no choice but really to somehow make some movement.
They had to go somewhere. That's right.
Okay, so that's the initial point. So it's already, the system's already failed them there. But correct. They contacted the police in the first instance.
Yeah, that was just
that
weird.
Was
I think
random.
that was one of these maybe signs of them being a bit loopy early on, is that they had decided that the children were in danger of the spouse or something. And there was no evidence of that being the case.
But they didn't bother giving him a call later after she'd stabbed someone to death. Oh no, nothing's going on in Ireland. We'll just see if we can find some records in Sweden.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there was any record of anything happening in Ireland. But and then Tony's writing notes on his hand saying the Swedish mental health system. Yeah. But according to what I could find, there was no evidence that they'd had any major psychotic breaks or anything in Sweden prior anyway. So I think the moment for me that things could have been dealt with differently is when they got thrown off the bus and left in the services, and the police were called at that point. No one made alternative arrangements for them to leave the services properly. Yeah?
But in the services, I don't know that you have to then... Would you expect that someone would then go walking down the motorway? I just feel like there's a whole lot of things that have happened in isolation, and why would they expect that they'll do anything other than ring a taxi or something like that?
Get a minicab to go to the local town or something. I don't know what else you could do.
Yeah.
We don't know if anyone
they just
suggests...
go walking down the...
No, you wouldn't expect them to go down the motorway. But given that they were showing signs of being weird and erratic to start with, and they didn't seem normal, and that's why they got
You'd
thrown
probably
off
just
the
want to
bus.
get them off the bus so that they don't blow the bus up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the bus driver's motivation, and I don't have a problem with that because they were increasingly weird, right? So I can understand that. What I don't think is brilliant is that the police were called. If you think their behaviour is weird enough to call the police and to attend the services, when they show up, they're fine, they're harmless. At that point, it's like, well, where are you guys going?
Where are you going to go on from here, ladies?
How are you going to go on from here?
Yeah.
And we don't know whether that conversation took place or not. The fact that they wander off down the motorway suggests to me that they didn't necessarily have an alternative presented to them. Now, I know what you're saying is it's not the services manager's job to do it, but...
I just don't like it's the system's responsibility. And I I mean, I understand how you get to that, but I just feel like the system then becomes responsible for everything. And, you know, people actually die.
Yeah, I don't think there's a crime there. I just think it's unfortunate.
Well, it's the beginning of a series of very unfortunate events.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what, you're right.
And she
then, of
did
course,
2.5
once they
years
run out
for
on the street,
murder.
Yeah. Of a 5-year sentence.
I think that's a crime. Like, if that's true, then shouldn't she be released into some kind of an institution? It just...
Yeah. You would have thought
You know,
so.
she's killed someone. She's using the fact that she's got some kind of mental health disorder as the reason for it.
If she
What's to
truly
say that's
has
not gonna happen
folie à
again?
deux, if she truly had folie à deux, as long as she stays away from her sister, she won't do it again. That was the point. She was
Really?
insane at the
But
time.
was that part of the? But was that part of the condition that she wasn't allowed to see her sister?
No. I don't believe they have seen each other ever since, but no, I don't believe it was a condition.
Yeah, but that I mean that's the kind of thing to me where I'm going. I don't think they've taken the fact that she's killed someone seriously, because they've given it 2.5 years and gone, oh well, good luck, don't do it again.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things about whether the system is there, and I'm talking about the justice and prison system, whether it's there for rehabilitation or for punishment, and it's generally for rehabilitation. If she shows no sign of mental illness in the 2.5 years that she's been there, she's a model prisoner. She found God, remember?
But why would
all
she
that.
if she had that condition? She wouldn't.
But if
she
she's
wouldn't
not
show that again
mentally ill, why would you put her into an asylum?
Well, then give her 25 years.
Yeah, it seems to be she's mentally ill when it suits, and then when
Suits
she's not,
her. Yeah.
Not her. I'm saying this. The way she's being judged. So at the time of the crime, she was considered. I don't think I understand enough about the condition that what's it just immediate onset when you're with the person who's going to send you crazy, but then if you're not with them, it's like, oh no, I'm good. So I just don't think I can see that person again, because otherwise I tend to kill people and certainly run onto into motorways. She's bad news, man. But if I don't stay there, I can keep the shit together.
I believe that is pretty much
the
an
legal...
excellent way of determining.
Is that
folie à
right? I
deux.
just didn't understand that. I thought it was that's the way it always is.
It's precisely what it is. It's a shared delusion from two people imparted by one to the other. So if you're not around that person, you won't have that delusion. That's right. I think you absolutely nailed it in a very offhand and funny fashion.
Well played.
Sorry,
I
Paul.
don't really like that as a mental health issue.
Oh, I'm sorry. What will you like as a
It seems
mental
like
health issue?
it seems like it's very convenient, really.
What's your preference? What would you prefer?
I think I'd prefer something more sort of.
Well, maybe that's if you're unhappy that you feel that she's. See, I get your point, Paul. I think what you were trying to say was, well, not what you were trying to say. The way I interpreted what you were saying was, she still killed someone. So if she's sane in prison, then she should still be doing time like a sane person who murdered someone.
Yes.
Right.
I think.
But I think the point
it's
was
not
at
just
the point
that.
she killed someone, she couldn't have not killed him because of her mental state.
Yeah, no, I understand. But there was nothing to say that she couldn't go back into that same mental state if she
At
saw
some
her
other
sister.
point in time. Yeah.
Yes.
In which case, we're not taking it seriously. But I also think if someone runs onto a motorway in front of a car that writes that car off, punches a policewoman, and gets given 1 day.
That's what I'm saying.
Of course. Yes.
He wouldn't have been killed if they'd put her in jail then properly and processed her properly, not just said, "Oh, 1 day's enough. We'll let you go, love." I completely agree.
Yeah.
So that happens though when she's released from the hospital that very first time, right?
Yeah.
And she's left to wander around streets
into...
with a plastic bag. And that was what I was bringing up before. So who does that lie with? Is it with the local police? Yeah, I presume so, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep. They just said, "Oh no, she's good."
I reckon that. I guess what I'm seeing here that I'm not comfortable with is just the treatment of the courts of the whole process. It's 1 day I think is not appropriate. And I'll have to work out a more appropriate sentence as we explore this.
Yes, because that's what we exist for.
Exactly.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But I mean, come on, in terms of a token gesture,
Yeah.
one day, what? Why bother? At all?
Not even a good bit of cobbling.
Just take her around the back and cobble her for a bit. That would have been okay. Can I just, have both of you seen the film Heavenly Creatures? It's an early Peter Jackson
so.
New Zealand something? What am I thinking?
Yeah.
I haven't.
It's,
but
I'm pretty sure Peter Jackson.
Yeah, I think you're right. But...
That is a case of folie à deux as well.
Is it really?
So it's two teenage girls who get so wrapped up in their own delusion and their fantasy that they eventually bludgeon one of the girls' mothers to death because she wants to separate.
What sentence did they get in that?
Oh, they got
2.5
serious.
years?
No, they got a serious. I can find out, but they got a serious term. But they never saw each other again, and I'm not sure whether or not it was part of their conditions. I do know, however, they never saw each other again, and of course
I feel
they
like the
didn't go on to have the same
magistrate
issue.
hadn't seen Heavenly Creatures then.
Maybe, yeah. So yes, folie à deux is a real thing, obviously, and quite disturbing.
Do you find that folie à deux seems very particular, like to give it a title?
It's quite rare.
For being, where does the difference lie between you've been influenced versus you are having a delusional psychotic moment totally connected to that person? I mean, there's going to be a bit of grey area there, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think they share
did
it.
Bonnie and Clyde have folie à deux?
I think probably. I think in folie à deux the point is that you're both in each other's delusion. So one is influenced by the other in the delusion, but you're both in the delusion, right? So you're both seeing the same stuff and responding to stimuli in the same way, because you're both. So in the case of Heavenly Creatures, they had a real fantasy world where they invented, Peter Jackson does a wonderful job of this, but like chess pieces turning into real people, and they really created their own fantasy world, which they shared. They both saw. It was a shared vision of that, and I think that's the thing, as opposed to Tony's deluded, I'm deluded, but we have different delusions. We're just deluded. I think the folie à deux is where we share that delusion. And it's very specifically the influence of the other. If he goes away, I no longer have that delusion.
The more I think about it, the more my head hurts.
Yeah.
Okay, so come on, guys.
Well, I think I'd start with the police in Stoke-on-Trent.
Mm-hmm.
When they've released her. I think that they need some kind of comeuppance.
Yep.
But what though? What could I send them to trial by wine world?
I think they need a little bit of retraining to recognise some of the symptoms of stuff, mental illness and possible risk profiling. They probably do a lot of that now anyway.
I'm surprised they didn't do it then. I'm a bit shocked, to be honest. That's why I think I'm struggling with it, because it's like, it seems pretty obvious that they're having, if it wasn't drugs, there was something. Two identical sisters acting strangely, running onto motorway. That's not normal.
They shouldn't have been released.
Correct.
One of them got crushed by a truck, for goodness sake.
Or why wasn't she taken to a sister then? Like, when she was released, why didn't they go, right, we're going to interview you both together at the hospital?
They just released her from the police station to wander around Stoke-on-Trent.
Yeah, there was no process. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
If they've been released from hospital, though, is it the police's job to determine whether they're crazy or not? Like, shouldn't that happen as part of the hospital?
She didn't have a psychiatric assessment in the hospital. She was only checked over for physical stuff, and she was arrested by the police.
That shouldn't be up to the police.
No, she was processed after her police visit, though, Paul. So it went hospital 5 hours, then she went to the police. So after the hospital...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the police... But the police shouldn't diagnose whether she's got some kind of crazy. The hospital should be doing that, and they should be releasing her, saying that she's now fit to be released.
Processed by the police.
Yeah, so I think the hospital are the ones who should be identifying that stuff, not the police.
She should have been assessed psychiatrically. Absolutely.
Yes.
She came in having run around on the M6. your original idea was she's suicidal. If she's suicidal, she's suffering from some kind of
she should have been assessed.
depression, or she should have been assessed.
Yeah, it makes no sense that she wasn't. I don't
It's
get
neglect. It's sort of neglect.
It's just broken
What
both
was
legs.
what was her defence
She didn't have
in that the first bit where she got the 1-day sentence? What was her reasoning for doing it?
She never gave a reason at all.
No comment.
No comment.
Yeah, she said no comment.
Which I think in itself is a sign that something's not quite right.
Yeah. Yep. So I really think that, my own view is she should have been psychiatrically assessed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I would have let her out after a day. And I certainly, if I'm going to say you've got to do a day or two of time, by the way, you've already been here overnight, so that'll do, love, is not enough. And also just releasing her straight out into the community like that, in my opinion, having had her running around on the M6 with no explanation as to whether or not that psychosis was continuing. She seems okay now, is not adequate. So I do think that there is a failure from both the hospital and the police in terms of the management of Sabina.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because from the police's perspective, they would see crazy stuff all the time, and
Absolutely.
a lot of it would be drug induced, you would imagine. But
And it's
I think if you're the one sitting there, but also if you're the one sitting on the side of the motorway and the Swedish girls go running into the traffic, that doesn't really show anything other than maybe they just freaked out for a minute and made a bad choice.
I'm not buying
I
that.
I think that...
They got up again and started
what if
again.
they were just trying to...
Yes, they kept going.
Nah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Nah, it's
they
full
would
it's full
see
whack
meth
job, mate.
heads
Sorry.
doing...
That
Yeah,
shit-
but what I'm saying is they'd see that all the time. So they'd then
I
hand them
don't
over to the
think we
hospital,
really see that all the
assuming that
time.
they'd get a
Or if-
meth head
not with-
action.
But not two of them not doing it at the same time.
Inexplicably
Working
like
off each
that.
other. Yeah, you'd
That
at
was
least thinking, what are they
particularly
running
nuts.
from? What crime sits behind it? Because that's where I thought we were headed. What has somebody done to them? But there's none of that. So at least as the police investigator, would have been like, okay, well, what's the because there's been no motivation. Fair enough, we know that because we've got.
No, but they would just go, we'll send her to hospital.
What possessed?
Well, they'd be going, we'll send her to hospital to get fixed and get drug tested because we assume she's on
Yes.
drugs because
Yeah.
I think
Got
we
that.
all make that assumption.
Yep.
So then the hospital go, no, they're all fine.
Tickety
And
boo,
you go, well,
they're
what do we
clean
do
as a
with them?
whistle, sober as a judge.
That's okay then.
Off you go.
But what crime are you investigating as the police? Like it's...
Well, they did disrupt the M6. It's trespass. It's Crown land. You're not allowed to do it. So there are crimes. They're not
It's
like
a one.
murder.
It's a
but
one-day
they're crimes.
offence.
It's still
It's a one-day offence.
an expensive
so...
offence if you shut down a major motorway for any period of time.
Yeah, but what I'm
police.
saying is even the courts go, it's a one-day offence. So how much time would you invest in
Punched
that?
a police officer. I can't believe that's a one-day offence.
That's the courts. But I mean, it almost sounds like the police don't feel like they're particularly well supported in this whole thing
I
either.
don't think the police were well supported. I made a comment before about resourcing. If they are dealing with lots of people on drugs, and I was going to say they don't see people running out onto the M6 for shits and giggles like this often at all, but they definitely deal with a lot of suicides, drug overdoses. There's tons of crime that they're dealing with all the time. And I think
that's my point. That it's. I'm saying they see crazy stuff, not that exact example.
not this kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's reasonable to hold the system or even any of the individuals to account for what she's done. I think there's clearly a lot of crazy going on, and I understand that that's a hard thing to diagnose, B, to deal with. And would you expect that she's even crazy enough to stab someone 5 times? Probably not through any of that. She's harmed herself more so than anyone else. Mm-hmm. I just can't come at the 2.5 years. I just think that's a disgrace.
Okay. All right then.
To just cut it off at that.
So Sabina's the one that you're going to sentence then, which is fine.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah, she's the one who killed. And the poor
did.
polo driver.
Sure, you keep
I
saying
thought-
that. It's a Volvo.
I
anyway.
don't have a funny one.
It's-
because
you
I
said
would
it was a
think she just- I
Volkswagen
think she probably
Polo.
needs to be
Oh, did I? Oh,
institutionalised.
sorry.
If she's not
You
going
should
to
check
be-
your notes.
I should. Sorry.
I
Sorry,
think she
Carla,
just-
go on.
I think perhaps, trying to look at it from a possibly positive and a rehabilitative sort of stance, but also because I do think she should not have been released after 2.5 years. I think she just should be, I say institutionalised, but I realise that has connotations in itself, but I do think that she needs to be under supervision and certainly kept away from the general public for a significant amount of time, not 2.5 years.
Yes, I agree with you. My sentence, if you're interested, is that
Yes.
both of the ladies are going to go and live out their days in Trial by Wine World. And they're going to live at Crazy Town, which is just adjacent to Peasant World. And in Crazy Town, we've got cars that are automatically, there's no one driving them, but they just go up and down the street, so no one
You
can
can
get
play
hurt.
chicken.
They can run out into traffic
I love
all
it.
day, every day, and get hit by, you're quite right, Paul, as many Volkswagen Polos as they like. Or not. I don't care. But they're staying in Crazy Town. That was my view of the
Crazy
ladies.
Town.
Yeah. Crazy Town.
In Crazy Town,
What's
yeah.
that? What's that rock that
Crazy
they have in Game of Thrones where the Greyjoys live?
Casterly.
Yeah.
No, not Casterly Rock.
Something like Black Rock or Grey Rock. Or
Ironborn. That one.
Shit Rock. Yeah.
I reckon that's where I'm going to send Sabine. She can go and live out there for the rest of her life because that looked like a pretty shit place to live, and
It didn't look
she can't
good,
do that
yeah.
much damage there. And one of them will just chop her head off if she gets too cheeky.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oof, too much.
No, I'm fine with that.
I'm good.
Yeah,
Good.
I think she can go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit weather, just a whole lot of rock and surrounded by ocean.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like Crazy Town, maybe Crazy Town is situated on that rock.
You give me a very sort of Nordic
Well, that
feel.
could be it. Yes.
It is a Nordic feel.
It's a bit of
Maybe
a
they're
Nordic
right back
Yes.
at home.
bit Viking kind of,
Yeah,
cold,
perfect. She'll feel
wet,
at home.
It
She
had
might
a
not
very
feel a need to
Viking
do anything
wild.
crazy again.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Ursula could go and live with her there, though, just so they could still do crazy shit together. Pardon the pun.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think both
No.
of them need some help in real world. But
No trucks for them to run into. No polos for them to run into.
well, if you're trying to be nice to them, you could have like trucks made out of just inflatable trucks, so that they bounce off them much more efficiently than they bounced off the one that we saw in the footage.
Yeah, nice. I think I just want to remove them from the general populace so that they
Yeah.
can't do that again. But in a way that they can still have some freedom on a
Yeah.
cold, rainy rock in the middle of the
Yep.
ocean.
Fair enough.
Because it would have been different if they had have caused an accident on that motorway initially. You could have lost quite a few lives in
Yeah, absolutely. Not
you know,
just
a couple
them
of minutes of
getting
drive.
run over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there were lots of near misses, really.
absolutely.
Can you read out what that judge said again that gave her 2.5 years?
Yep.
Or 5 years?
I understand that this sentence will seem entirely inadequate to the relatives of the deceased. However, I have sentenced on the basis that the reason for the killing was the mental illness, and therefore the culpability of the defendant is low, and therefore the sentence I have passed is designed to protect the public.
And so I think I understand that in isolation. I don't understand why nothing happened to
Let me put it this way.
try to prevent her from having that happen again.
Yeah, let me put it this way. If I was the victim of domestic abuse and eventually I had enough of being beaten by my husband and I stab him, I can guarantee there are plenty of examples of women who have murdered their husbands in that kind of a situation who have received a much greater sentence than 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think that they're in that instance they're provoked 100%. So
I'm just going to go,
there's a
it's
lot
not one of those
self-defense going on
cases.
there.
It's not one of those cases where the defendant could have done something to avoid the onset. You know, the excuse, the rationale here is the defendant couldn't have done anything about it because they were in Cray Cray Town, and therefore I can't really sentence them to life or, because if it was
But
murder...
also, they can't do anything to prevent the onset, which means it could well happen again, but I'm not going to take that into account. I just feel like there has to be
It's
more.
not future-proofed, is it?
It's not, not at all. And it's not acknowledging that if this is a condition that is serious enough to lead to someone getting murdered, that we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again. And it doesn't have to be jail forever. I understand that completely. I just am kind of shocked and confused by that
I agree.
sentence and the rationale. I don't understand it.
Okay.
She might need a nut punch.
Yeah.
Just
Well.
a quick cheeky one.
That be
Just a little one.
Justice Saunders.
Just to keep it
just-
real.
Justice Saunders, I'm just warming up my hand so I can give you a
That's right. Yeah. And I want you to go and rewrite that explanation because no one's buying that. We're all just confused by what you said. Is it
for
just
some
as
reason-
Jennifer Saunders?
Well, it's funny because I just realised that this whole time I keep referring to Justice Saunders as a woman, and I'm just reading going, no evidence that Justice Saunders is a woman. I don't know why I thought that.
Oh,
he
because
or
I
she
started
is.
referring to Justice Saunders as a he, and then I thought,
That's a
maybe I've made that horrible gender
well, no, we don't
stereotyping
know.
mistake.
I don't know what Justice Saunders' gender is. There you go. Maybe it's fluid.
Maybe
What
it's
is, what does
non-binary.
Justice Saunders have like
Yeah,
it's like Tony or a Peter, or one of those names that works both ways.
It could
Jody.
go both ways, yeah. No, I don't know where I got
Did-
that from. Anyway, like many
Did
things.
Justice Saunders would have worn a wig. I wonder if they also wore a red nose or something in the court, because it just sounds like they were a bit of a clown. Didn't take their job seriously.
Okay.
Okay.
And on that note, that's my case.
Well done.
That's
How'd
a
you-
wrap.
How'd you come across
Yeah,
that,
that
Schmidty?
was.
I certainly don't remember it, which is strange. You'd think I would. But I don't think I've ever heard of it. But how did you come across that? Just having a little bit of a look-see?
Oh, no, I've heard it told elsewhere.
Right.
And I think when I was looking at other stuff, I came across it again and thought, yeah, that is an interesting case. I'll look at that one. What were you going to say, Paul? Clarky?
It just leaves me with a horrible feeling in my stomach. Just
It's
all
not the
right.
aftertaste of a bag of
It's-
dicks.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Could
exactly.
be.
A bag of
be.
dicks made me feel a bit
They didn't
queasy,
bother.
if you
Bag
don't
of
mind.
dicks, you were sweet on that, Toots. Don't worry about that. This put you off? Oh, goodness me.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah, isn't it interesting? That was,
Yeah.
that
Wasn't bored by a
we had no
3-day-old
problem with that.
penis.
We had no
That's
problem with the
right.
battered salve, but this is distasteful.
Yeah. Well, it's just there's no clear crime and there's no clear, you know.
I wanted a motive or
just-
something. I wanted some backstory that was going to
Yeah,
make me have some
exactly.
empathy for them or go, oh, I know why they went a bit nuts. So there was just nothing to work
Yes.
with in terms of how did you become
trigger.
the crazy duo? Woohoo, wacko twins. Well done. But
It's just a bit of a tragedy.
Yeah.
it is, certainly, but without, you know.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that's summed up when they talk at the end about, no one having any answers to the questions.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's
Yeah.
You're right. It is
It's hard.
not distasteful.
No, definitely not
We can't wrap it
distasteful.
up. It's not tidy in any way. There's no
Yeah.
clear
Yeah.
motive, so that
Yeah.
we
It's
can't
not
do
tidy.
this linear thing where we go, that happened, which made them behave this way. You know, we
Just
know
a
it's not
couple
right.
of
Yeah.
nut
But
punches
there's
and everything would be fine. That's right.
There's no catalyst for anything. Just all of a sudden we're on a boat to Liverpool. It's like, oh, let's get this show on the road. Let's start Crazy Town now. But we have
That's the whole point.
Yeah,
No
and it's
so
not.
bizarre.
Yeah.
It's not like a pantomime where there's a clear villain. You know,
No.
it's just.
It's a hard one.
There's just. Oh, it doesn't fit my,
No, but even-
my normal
even at
mold.
the end, the
You've
whole
broken the
rampage.
mold.
It's frustrating.
The whole rampage, like she kills the guy, which is terrible. Then she's out, she's got a hammer, she's smacking herself
Yeah.
in the head.
I know, the
Some
tile.
And the
guy's trying to
roof
wrestle her.
tile.
She roof tiles him in the back of the head. Like, where did that even come from?
It's all I want to know. Where did it come
Rocky,
from?
watch me pull a roof tile out of my bag. Like, where does that come from?
up my sleeve.
It's random. You've been in hospital for and
She
been
just
in
got it from the guy's house.
custody.
But you're right. It's
With
just
the
like,
hammer.
what? And you know these things that they were really worried about, they didn't want anyone to touch in their bags?
Where was
It was
that?
their phone and their passports. That's all it was. So,
Yeah, right.
But, the whole, nothing up my sleeve.
Yeah.
Got a hammer, as I brush my own head in.
Oh,
What on earth are you
even is
doing?
that?
And then I'll just jump
Ow.
off a bridge. But I gotta say,
Yeah.
now we did talk about Gail Newland jumping off a bridge.
Oh, yes.
Episode 1, and we
did.
talked about the height of that bridge, and this woman had a fair crack at it.
Yes.
This was a
Yeah.
40-foot
12
bridge,
metre.
and she only
Yeah,
broke
yeah.
her ankles and fractured her skull. How about that? She didn't dive
That's
off it,
amazing.
is what I'm going to suggest. She went feet first.
Pin dive.
And didn't do a bombie.
No. Pin dive.
Onto the M50. I don't
Yeah.
think she even went into
Ah.
water.
She had a tough, murder aside, she had a brutal couple of days just with some of the stunts she was pulling off, running
Yeah.
Tell
into.
you what, when you go to visit your sister,
Oh.
you don't quite expect that kind of a shenanigan to take place, do you?
I went to County
I'm gonna have
Cork
to
and
keep
it certainly
my-
wasn't that eventful.
I am going to have to keep my eyes open for people that I might have follow do with. Imagine that, because it's going to it comes out of the blue, surely. So, all of a sudden you rock up and you think, oh my God, I'm a nut job with you. Okay.
Well, I think you and I have experienced that
Yes.
together, haven't we, Carla?
Yes.
Only I think it
Best
comes
give us
out
a
with
laugh.
us where we like to hang out in the sun over tan and eat meat treats.
Correct. Maybe a couple of
A
durries.
bag of dicks. Is that what you mean by meat
And a bag of
treats?
dicks. Yeah, that's right. Shh, don't tell anyone about that.
3-day-old
goodness
ones. Goodness.
Oh,
that was that was a really
I like
good
my
story.
bag of
really
dicks
unusual
fresh.
one. Yeah. Like your fries.
That's right.
You don't want them going soggy.
Yes, it was unusual.
Goodness.
Wild ride. Glad I could deliver
Yes.
on that.
Yes, absolutely.
And one best be keeping a lookout for folie à deux,
Oh.
or as Carla would say, folie à trois, folie à quatre, folie à cinq, etc., etc.
It just keeps on giving that, guys.
It does.
So, thank you very much for your time.
Merci.
And-
Thank you.
I- Miss you guys.
Merci. Yes.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Oh,
Folie
je
à
vous
deux.
en prie.
Yeah.
What did I just say? I can never remember. You're
What did you
welcome. Yeah. Je vous en prie. Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
You're the one
I
who
can't
lived
remember.
in
Yeah, I think so.
Monaco.
I can't remember. I don't think I had to say that very often.
I think I just said you're welcome. Yeah. Okay. All right. Miss
Let's
you
go with that.
guys. Yeah. Okay. Miss you already. See ya.
Ciao. Love you long time.
See you next time. Bye.
Au revoir.
Ciao, ciao, bello.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.